Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interviewed titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guest today has lectured at Cornell, Yale, Columbia, and the Wharton School, to name a few. He is a research instructor, runs an AI robo-advisory and an AI hedge fund, and has an online TV series. He is the CEO of Rebellion Research. Please welcome Alexander Fleiss.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Alex, I am so honored to have you on the show today. I reached out to you via LinkedIn and went through your website and started clicking on all the different tabs, all the different pages that you have, and saw some of the great interviews that you've done with some really amazing people, some influential people as well, and then also some of the research that you've done. But something that I'd really like to talk about and at least start off with, and we're going to go into Rebellion Research and everything that you do there and machine learning. We're going to get into AI and all the amazing things that the future holds for us. But you overcame some really challenging things in your life that are true. And so I think it's really important to touch on your childhood, your upbringing, and some of the things that you've overcome. So you mentioned to me that you were born deaf and you also overcame autism. And so I'd love to hear your story and how you were able to accomplish everything that you've accomplished today and be able to overcome some of those difficulties and challenges in your youth.
Well, I was lucky enough that A, I wasn't too far in the autism spectrum, and B, my parents, I was born to a very lucky family, and I was able to have nearly a dozen operations before I was maybe even 8 or 9 years old. So I was given, the benefit of fantastic medical care, and a lot of the work that was done on me actually was stuff that had not really been around in the previous few years. So just the timing of when I was born and when I had my ear issues. And so, in fact, actually, my parents sent me to the school my brothers went to, but the school wanted me to go to a special ed school. But luckily enough, I was really at like a third grade reading level before I even entered kindergarten. So they just said, okay, put him in the corner. He doesn't need to learn, I always loved school, but school was more about me engaging with the teacher. Not really. I kind of learned everything before it happened, and I would either engage with the teacher or not engage with the teacher. And if I cared about the subject enough and I engaged with the teacher, it was really just a lot of fun and fantastic. And so that's why I like giving back and why I love teaching so much. And now with my UCLA program, I'm going to be doing research at so many different schools. I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning because, quite frankly, I have so much on my plate these days. And the number one business is this global robo-advisory and hedge fund that I've been running now for nearly 15 years that uses a Bayesian machine learning that was built by my super genius partner, Spencer Greenberg, and my other super genius partner, Jeremy Newton, and myself. And now it's really just an awesome system. I keep all of my money in it. And I don't think about investing. Investing is the one thing I don't think about. I think about absolutely everything on the planet but investing. I've been exploring with the Space Force and the Air Force on a number of different projects over the last few months, using deep learning to map space and also using augmented reality to create a maintenance program for our B-52 bombers, which are going to be used in the next 30 to 50 years. And so the problem is you've got all these young engineers who don't know how to do a lot of basic stuff like oil changes and this and that. And so I've been putting together a proposal for the Air Force to create an augmented reality program for all this basic upkeep. And it's one thing to have some good, pilot, kind of people who understand both the mechanism and how to fly it. And you'll get those in the mainland, but if you have a bomber that stops off in Guam or some far off government outpost, you're going to be hard pressed to find a mechanic that can work on that B-52. And so you're basically saying we can only have our bomber force fixed in mainland America. That just doesn't work. And so we need to create a maintenance protocol so that every government outpost can fix our bomber. And so that's fun. I've been doing that, but that's all just to get back to my country. No contracts. It's all not for profit.
So that one there, is that the jets, the jets program that you have, Fly Jets? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, no, nothing to do with Fly Jets. Fly Jets is a company I'm on the board of. Fly Jets is a very cool private jet company started by a really brilliant UPenn girl, Goldman Sachs, and very, very smart mind, Jess Fisher. And Jess had the idea that I should create, NetJets is popular. Why not do a platform where anyone can just jump on and see the price of jets? I don't see it. It's not there yet.
Oh, okay.
And everyone's talked about it. Okay. It's just not there. It's just not there. And so she has a very simple platform where you can go on helicopter, jet, and just book it. And so it's cool. It's growing. It's awesome. She's going to kick butt with it. I told her I think, she could get a valuation in the company now of $25 to $30 million. She's done a lot of work. She's a nice Forbes article. And, she actually offered me stock. I said, I can't take stock. I'm your advisor. We've been close friends for 20 years, and I just want to see her succeed. And,
so you have a lot of entrepreneurs around you that you work with, and you sit on a lot of boards, I noticed as well.
I have a sister-in-law, Jenny, who was my best friend before I introduced her to my brother, actually, and she founded Rent the Runway, which is an awesome dress rental company. But a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs, and I seek out just people who've got passions, and passions tend to be hard workers. They tend to be entrepreneurs. So a lot of my friends are scientists, and a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs, and just people who are very passionate about what they do. I love people from all walks of life, and so I'll have students who are not from Ivy League, not from the elite schools, but if they have a passion for what they're doing, I don't care what their background is.
What's interesting is that I think growing up, we were talking about this earlier, we're kids of the 90s, and growing up, we would never categorize a scientist and an entrepreneur in the same sentence, right? We would say a scientist is somebody in a lab coat behind a glass, and then a entrepreneur is a business leader of sorts, right?
No, now they're so intertwined.
And that's what I was just going to ask you, is that in today's age, they're so intertwined. And so with being in
nerds
that circle,
like me started making money and saying, hey, okay, I've done my business. It's making enough money. What do I really want to do? I entered Amherst College, which you notice I'm still wearing my Amherst shorts because I love my school. I'm going to be honest, I'm obsessed with my school. I had the best 4 years of my life.
For our listeners, Alexander came in and he's in his Zoom outfit. He's got a suit up top and shorts down low. And I love it. But
I drove round trip from Manhattan, and so shorts are comfortable, and I'm one of those obsessed Amherst College alumni. So I just I wear my shorts everywhere, and I loved going to college. It was just a lot of fun.
But before I interrupted to paint the visual, you were just sharing about how your passion of being in science and learning so much in science and doing so well in science, and then learning how to make an income from it. So in other words, bringing the scientific side of your life and the entrepreneurial life.
Yeah, when I started Rebellion Research, quite frankly, artificial intelligence was not respected by the mainstream. Mm-hmm. It was still considered campy and out there and silly. And when I think of the word campy, I think of the original Batman and the shark biting on Batman's leg, and it was just kind of silly. And that's what people thought of AI. Oh, it's a little bit silly, And I remember when we would go get TV appearances, they'd throw on the Matthew Broderick movie and just the war games. And come on, AI now has finally been accepted as it's just very simple. It's very simple stuff. It's just technology or software that looks at probability estimates and looks for patterns. And so our machine learning looks at patterns in the global economy and makes probability estimates as to what will outperform based on the current patterns and the historical patterns. And so it's kind of very simple stuff. It's very obvious stuff. You
have a case study on your site on Apple, on how you did it for Apple. Is that right? Maybe it's not a case study, but
So very simply, how our technology works is that it looks at factors that relate to the economy and fundamentals, and so that what you get, the final product is, you'll have 70 to 100 positive factors, and these positive factors will refer to, maybe. One of my favorite case studies is a Brazilian steel company we bought in 2009 at the height of the financial crisis. The AI saw Brazil's industrial output rising. It saw steel prices strengthening. It found this company TX Ternium, which was trading at about its cash value and had gigantic cash flows. And so it was very, it made a lot of fundamental sense, it made a lot of macro sense. And then the AI looks at, who's buying this and what's the history of the buyers. And so that's very important as well. And so, you need to see, is this being bought by smart hedge funds and smart mutual funds? And so that's, kind of the final, solution there. And so that's where we try and make our bets. We want to be in the strongest economies with the strongest companies being bought by the funds, both hedge fund and mutual fund, who have the best track record buying that correlated index. And so if it's steel, how have they bought steel companies the last 10 years? And so, we can look at like 20,000 public funds across the world.
So, I mean, we've gone towards rebellion research and what you're doing today. I kind of want to just go backwards in time a little bit again, because we did open with this question, and I think it's very interesting, and it's something that I've never really heard. But overcoming autism, and how did you do that? And what does that mean? Like, was it misdiagnosed? Were you just born brilliant or something?
Oh, no. It just, I was uncomfortable with others, and I was very, very bad sociability, and, I was, problems interacting were always significant for me. And so it's easier now that I've gotten older. People get offended by how I would be all the time. And so now I just say, listen, I'm a little bit autistic. I'm on the autism scale. So don't be offended if how I'm acting makes you feel like I'm never mean to anyone. I don't ever try to bother anyone. And so if I'm like Kurt, it's because I have a new thought and I want to enter that thought into the conversation, not because I disrespect what we were just talking about or something else, just because that's what popped into my head. And,
right.
I have absolutely no filter, so it's terrible at times.
Okay, so and maybe I'm misusing the phrase of overcoming it, because you still work through it, obviously, from what you're telling me. But you've done a really tremendous job doing it, because you started a company.
Well, my father said to me, he said, listen, Alex, you have to start a company, because quite frankly, you're not going to be able to work in the real world. You're not going to be able to hold a job. No one's going to, you can get hired anywhere because, you've got a great background, but they're not going to put up with how you act, and so you have to start your own company. My father is always very blunt with me. He's a spinal surgeon, former Walter Mondale speechwriter, a very smart guy. He's got a PhD, ABD from NYU in political science, and then my mom was like, I don't want to live in D.C. and I don't want a speechwriter for her husband, so go be a doctor. And he got his MD from Columbia, and now he's a orthopedic surgeon. He was spinal for 20 years, and then he was bad back from football, so he couldn't stand up in long surgeries anymore.
The brain didn't fall far from the tree, I guess, right?
Oh no, my dad's a very smart guy. No, my dad's smarter than me. I don't have his raw intelligence, but my mom has eons more of street sense, and so my dad's not aware of kind of the world. He's very internal. My mom's very external. They're polar opposites, so they work very well.
And so when I think about what your dad said to you, which was what a great piece of advice that he gave to you.
Yes, it was rather in the end, quite frankly.
To help you, and pretty much.
I could have had a very frustrating life of being fired from lots of places, and that would not have I would not have been a very happy person.
And misunderstood. And at least you got to build your own world. So what was the first company that you started then?
Well, I started Rebellion Research in college, 2003, and it's been growing essentially for now 22. I mean, the first corporate charter was October 2003. So I've been growing that for 22 years. The first company that I made money from was Microfinancial, which was a leasing and loan company that I got involved with as a 20-year-old. And at one point, I owned as much as 11% of the company. And we sold that to Fortress Financial in 2014 for $147 million. I did not still own 11% of the time, but I still owned a significant share of the company, and so that was great. That was a good business, but to be honest, right now I'm focused on our business is doing great, and so I'm focused on the business. But I'm also focused on the research, and I'm focused on the TV. And so I'm kind of just, no more other businesses. I don't invest in other businesses. I don't invest in other things. I used to have as many as 75 other funds I put my money in. But I started looking at the returns of my other funds and the returns of the AI and realizing enough of this. And so I just took all my money, I put in the AI, which is also my father's advice. My father has good advice. He also has terrible advice at times, but sometimes he's got good advice, quite frankly. You've got to be a good sieve, as I try to be, and take out the good advice.
What's your dad's name?
Dr. David Jonathan Fleiss. David J. Fleiss. No, my dad's tremendously cool in ways that I haven't. He worked in the Peace Corps, lived in Belize for 6 months, built houses there. He was almost decapitated by a fallen electric wire, but a local threw him down, and the guy behind him was decapitated on these 2 lumber trucks. So crazy. And then he had no money to get back to America, so he worked on a shrimp boat, beheading something like 20 or 30,000 shrimp with his thumb. And then he says, once the captain found out he was a Jew, he said, "Okay, you got to go clean out the 20-year-old boiler now." And so anyway. But then when he got back to New York, he found out that my grandparents had made their aliyah to Jerusalem and that they had sold the house and he had nowhere to live. And so, yeah, he was my dad's a crazy guy. He went to college at 15, though, and he grew up very quickly. So and my mom's the opposite. My mom was a princess. So, but I look up to both my parents. They're both great examples. And my wife and I try to do the same for.
You seem to have learned a lot of your work ethic from your dad. And
my dad's a very hard worker. I'm a very hard worker, but I'm also like him in that I only really enjoy work. It's my favorite thing to do. I don't love vacation. It can be very stressful for me to be on vacation because I'm away from my work. And I have built this company now in Rebellion Research that I love so much that, quite frankly, going on vacation is not fun for me anymore. And it's
so let's go into Rebellion Research and how you started that. So you had microfinancial and you sold that, and so you started a company out of college and you sold it for $147 million.
No. I wasn't one of the founders of it. I was just a partner.
Partner in it. But you obviously had the sense enough to get involved there and make your way. And
that was a very good investment. But I've had other investments that went to zero and that were mistakes. I bought part of an airline. I bought part of the airline because we had a deal to sell off the airplanes. But then my partner changed his mind. We were going to sell the airplanes, but then he said, "Nope, I don't want to sell the airplanes. I think we can make a recovery of this because we made a profit one quarter." And I was like, "No, we're going to, we need to sell the airplanes and get out of this business. We're going to be done." But anyway, so that didn't work out. I didn't sell for zero, but that was a home run for a while, and then. I don't know if you've ever heard of Great Lakes Airlines, but
no.
Yeah, say a lot.
What were some other, I guess, investments that went sour, and maybe you don't have to go into them, but maybe what was your...
My worst investment ever was an oil rig off of Louisiana. It didn't go to zero. I've actually never had a stock that actually went to zero.
Okay.
So let me rephrase. That just means I lost money. And the oil rig I lost... probably half my money on. So I still got out for some. But the oil rig, it had a 70-year pumping history, and I had mapped out every conceivable 20-year trajectory, and each one looked fantastic. And then the depletion rate just was like, it was just unbelievable. I had just terrible timing, but these things happen. And so that's why I focus on Rebellion Research, keep all my money in Rebellion Research, and just grow my business.
Why do you think you were willing to take risks with these like airlines and oil rigs and other investments before? Because this was before Rebellion Research, I'm assuming. Why did you think you were able to take those risks?
Or
what gave you the courage to do it?
That's a great question. I believed in myself. I believed I could do it. I thought I was a good investor because microfinancial had worked out so well. But the oil rig turned out to be a mistake, and the airline turned out to be a mistake. And while at the same time Rebellion Research is growing and doing tremendously well, I said to myself, enough trying to be an investor. Maybe you can still be an investor, but either way, you have so much invested in Rebellion. That is what you should give your attention to, and that is what you should give your time to. And instead, expand Rebellion Research. And so that's what I've been doing with Rebellion Research. So now I would say our financial services company is worth a lot, the asset management part. But now we have a media division. The readership was tremendous in the millions, and so now.
Yeah, you mentioned 2.3 million for readers at Rebellion Research. You have
over 2020. So we really just I've seen
increase.
Corona provided a tremendous growth in readership. And then we started the video series, which was totally out of nowhere. I had gotten, and we usually just do interviews, talk to them over the phone, and write it up the piece. And it's funny, actually, I met the founder of Tesla's augmented reality division on LinkedIn, like the way you met me, and we had been chatting about stuff, and I showed him a paper I wrote, and that's something I do. I show papers I write to show them how academic I am, and and I'm doing a natural language processing course at Cornell Financial Engineering this fall, so I'm very excited about that. But reverting back to the Tesla augmented reality, virtual reality founder, we talked on the phone 20 minutes. I wrote up an article. 20 minutes later, sent it to him. He's like, "Wow, how did you?" And so that's what we used to do. Just very quickly, boom, 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 get the article out. But the sub commander was like, "So you're going to record it over Zoom and it'll be a video?" And I was about to write back, "No, we only do." Phone calls. But then I said to myself, "You idiot, Alex, this is an opportunity." And so I said, "Yes, of course. Why, in fact, we do have a TV series, yes, and we'll be recording then." And we did. The show was a monster hit. On Facebook, it had, I think, like 140,000 views. So that was like just awesome. And then I opened a YouTube channel in December because apparently YouTube's important. And I just I don't know what YouTube is. Yes. I know, apparently. So I only 3 months ago learned that YouTube was important because I'm very much in my own world and head in the sand.
I've learned most of what I know in my adult phase of life through YouTube.
No, my mother-in-law wants me to read more news because I really just focus on like economic news, business news, and I don't focus on a lot of the world news. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to know. But
I want to go back to this interview here. So you started Rebellion Research. You're doing these papers. You're interviewing people over the phone. You're doing these papers, and then you get this sub commander. Let's talk about him for a second here. Who is this person?
Captain David Marquette, who's the captain of the USS Santa Fe.
Okay,
very cool guy, awesome guy actually.
And you get him on the phone, and he goes, "You're recording this, right?" So
Zoom on a Zoom call.
On a Zoom call.
Yeah, and he starts off with the background of the Vasa, which is this like a Viking ship that sunk after like 30 seconds in Sweden or something. And he's saying, this is an example of the Vasa, poor communication so important. And I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. When I saw his picture of the Vasa behind his screen, I thought to myself, this is the future of Rebellion Research. We're doing videos. I have spent 20 years doing research around the AI world. I have just this gigantic Rolodex, and I've accumulated like almost 28,000 connections on LinkedIn. So these people I've been talking to over many years, I started thinking to myself, hey, let's start doing shows. And General Petraeus was a huge, that also was very important for the series because that opened up our entire military following. And now military is almost, I hate to say what we're going to focus on in the future, but we're getting a lot more military readers than AI or technology or space. And we've done 7 astronaut interviews, which have all done, and our best TV show is the Tom Jones astronaut show. And that was probably because he talked about 3 really cool things. He talked about Challenger. He talked about how Tom Wolfe basically lied in his book, The Right Stuff, and that Gus Grissom did not pop the hatch. That was baloney. But Tom Wolfe wanted to make more of a dramatic thing. And that whole cold reception by NASA was not true. That was not the way it went down. And so the third thing was asteroids hitting the Earth. And so, space is great and we're growing space, but military is really now our main, we've done just this year in 2021, dozens and dozens of military pieces, looking at everything from the Battle of Jutland to Japanese pre-dreadnoughts. We had an admiral interview yesterday, and, we had the deputy commander of the 6th Fleet. We had the naval postgraduate director, and we got the designer of the USS Gerald Ford to come on the show, and he's actually written a few articles for Rebellion Research. And we've gotten some of the astronauts to edit as well, which has been great. So we did a statistical analysis of both the Challenger and I think it's the Columbia, the other one that blew up. And, both of those analyses, I'm terrible with letters, by the way. I remember numbers. I can tell you a financial figure from 25 years ago.
So
but
you and I you and I are a perfect match then, because I'm terrible with numbers and I'm great with letters.
Really, yeah, no, letters bounce off my head. So like
that's what numbers are to me. We are a perfect match.
French class was the most painful thing I've ever encountered in my entire. I
won't speak to you in French then.
Yeah,
but I have when you were, there's two things here that you kind of skimmed over that I think are very important to our audience. One is you interviewed Daniel Petraeus, and I'd like to just hear a little bit more about that in a second. But two, since our listeners are entrepreneurs and business leaders, the word pivot is huge right now. It's a huge buzzword, and that's what happened in your business. You pivoted. You were doing these news articles, and then or these research articles, and then you pivoted into TV, into this online TV thing. I kind of just want to hear a little bit more about the light bulb moment that went off there when that submarine commander said you should do TV series, and you said this is the future.
No, he didn't say you should do TV series. He thought it was a TV series.
Oh, right.
And I just played along with it.
So you saw that this was this would make sense for you.
I was like, oh my God, it was a total light bulb moment. And I wrote back, I told you, it was during this email response, I had started writing back, no, only over the phone, I'll be writing an article and I'll send it to you for approval. And then I erased it. I was like, you moron, this is a chance to have a video interview with a sub-captain. And, it's definitely changed my life. And, Rebellion TV has become a passion of mine. I love it. We're looking at doing, on top of these, interviews with very cool people on all of these informational subjects, we're going to start putting together, kind of Discovery Channel, National Geographic episodes, explaining scientific things from building AI to, how much of the polar ice caps have really melted, to the Bermuda Triangle. How mysterious is this quote unquote mysterious triangle?
It opened up a whole new door for you, is what happened.
I love it. I'm happier than I've ever been. It's funny. My brothers say I've never seen. I have 3 older brothers, and they've said never seen Alexander so happy.
You do get very excited and happy when you talk about it, and it's important for entrepreneurs to realize that you can start your business with one idea in mind, and it works for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden something opens up, and the light bulb goes off, and then you open and expand to where you are today.
For so many years, I just did AI to a point where people started referring to me as that's AI Alex. And I was like, oh, yeah, I thought it was cute, AI Alex. But it's not that I've gotten bored of AI. I still find AI very stimulating and I love it. And I have endless ideas that come about. And the work I'm doing with Cornell this fall is going to be an extension of other work that I did. And so, I love AI, but I need to do other things. And, working on military and technology and space projects are
So in the military, and then we'll move on to space and talk a little Elon with you. But so you get an interview.
So one of the executive directors of the Air Force Scientific Office Research Laboratory joined the Rebellion team as an editor, and has just been really helpful. And so we've been talking to a number of different parts of the Air Force and the Space Force for these projects. But this is also for our army of students. We have, maybe 100 graduate and PhD students, and maybe,
you call it an educational series.
Yeah, it very much is. Everything we do is about education. And then now we have so many contemporary members of Rebellion who are writing, editing, and it's becoming kind of this very much this village of academics, Wharton professors, deans from colleges and universities across America. They just love contributing. NASA astronauts, like I told you, we were doing the scientific analyses of the 2 incidents, and we got a number of NASA astronauts to the point where the director actually of, I think it was the Columbia disaster, was one of the editors who went through our article. So, we just strive to learn and learn and learn. And when we started writing on dreadnoughts, for instance, we were attacked by a lot of the dreadnought community, because the dreadnought community is this really intense, few 100,000 people who are obsessed with their HMS Hood and Bismarck and Yamato. And I have very much become a member of the dreadnought community in the last few months. And I have absolutely just fallen in love with battleships and dreadnoughts.
Unpack what the dreadnought community
is. A dreadnought is a type of battleship that came about in 1912. The HMS Dreadnought was the first one, and then, Japan almost beat them. But anyway, the point is that it's a type of battleship, came about in 1912. stopped with the Missouri was the last one. Or no, Missouri wasn't the last one. It was a HMS Vanguard maybe. Could be wrong also there. But anyway, the point is Dreadnought community would jump all over me for that. And so I love Navy history, and I've been obsessed with naval history, but I'm not a full Dreadnought expert yet. I'm trying to get there. But I mean, I interviewed an admiral yesterday, and he's like, I don't know much about dreadnoughts either. So, it's like, hey, if an admiral doesn't know much about dreadnoughts,
right.
I feel okay. I'm getting there. And I've been working. One of the people we worked with was a member of the Navy's. He'd actually been doing the algorithms for their armor protection. So we seek out the people who know the most on the subject, like with Tesla's augmented reality, virtual reality division founder. We were doing a project, and so I went to him and I said, what do you think of this? And that's so often the way to find these brilliant, even Nobel Prize winners.
Right.
Go to them with your research and say, what do you think of my research? Is it correct? How would you change it? Oh, well, here you are. And then all of a sudden they're editing it. They're being a part of what you're doing. And then they care about it, and often they'll come on the show.
I think it was Napoleon Hill and I think he was talking about Henry Ford, and just talking about how Henry Ford, what he did was surrounded himself with people who knew more than he knew. And when you're telling me this, it sounds like...
You touched on my life story. I was told by my mother to partner with the smartest kid in your science class for your laboratory. She said, as smart as you think you are, find the person who you think is the smartest person in the class, just work with him. And that's what I did with Rebellion Research. With Spencer Greenberg and Jeremy Newton, they were the two smartest mathematicians I had met before the age. I mean, who have I met smarter than them since? A few people here and there, maybe a handful. It's still, confidence in my partners 15, 20 years after the development of our initial algorithm only gives me even more confidence in what we built initially. I mean, I've since worked on it and adapted it, but what we built in 04 to 06 is just a really fantastic machine.
So again, back to our entrepreneurs and business leaders that are listening, how do you go out to seek people that are smarter than yourself? How do you seek people that know? That
Friendships. You got to network. This is the root of business, which is so painful for so many. You need to make friends in life. From Bill Gates and Paul Allen to Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, great friendships have often spawned great products and great wealths. But there needs to be a friendship there because people have to want to work with each other. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg wanted to work with Sean Parker. He did not want to work with the other guy anymore. The guy who moved to Singapore. That's when people want to work with each other, great things happen. My partners, Jeremy and Spencer, and the three of us, we wanted to work with each other. We had a lot of fun working together.
How'd you meet each other?
Jeremy and I met in a math class, and Spencer and I have been friends since we were children. So Spencer's grandfather was the great Hank Greenberg, Hammer and Hank Greenberg, the baseball player for the Detroit Tigers. And I, being a Jewish baseball-obsessed individual, had read the autobiography, which actually had been given to me by Spencer's uncle, Steve Greenberg, who my dad had met. And Steve's a really cool guy. He was a former deputy commissioner of baseball, and now he's head of baseball and sports M&A for the Allen Company. But and so I went up to Spencer when I was like 12 years old, and I said, I worship your grandfather. You must be pretty cool too. And Spencer was like, okay. And so we started talking, and Spencer and I both loved math, and we were both very nerdy, and we loved Broadway, and so when you want to do the same things, you hang out, and Yankee games and Broadway were two of my favorite things on the planet. So we had things in common. And then Jeremy came along. We met in a math class. Jeremy loved Broadway even more than Spencer and I did. Well, it's just hard. I was in like 15 shows in school. I wanted to be an actor for like a brief minute. Loved my HMS Pinafore and stuff. But when I was younger, I was much more stage fright, and I couldn't do things in public, and so I was basically like a stagehand often. But whereas now I just love being in public. I love the limelight. I've given so many speeches in front of thousands of people, and I love it.
Yeah, you've lectured at so many different universities.
Oh no, but I've given talks at these conferences that were just. I gave a talk in Britain at the O2 Arena, which is where they did the Olympics. And there was something like 1,800 people in attendance, and I really loved it. And I gave a talk at the MFA conference where there were like 700 all fund managers in attendance. There's nothing about talking to lots of people that intimidates me. There are many things in life intimidate me. Driving up to Poughkeepsie from Manhattan was intimidating. Just some narrow roads. So
nice drive though, right?
Oh, as beautiful as could be. I loved it. Really, really.
You picked a good day too.
Yeah, a really nice day. I had a good chat with my wife on the way up, and that was a lovely day.
Again, back to our entrepreneurs, you're speaking in front of large audiences, and a lot of times entrepreneurs or business leaders are nervous to speak into a small group, and let alone a large
I know.
group.
I feel so bad for them, and so I start having to just. I work with my students often who will be scared to talk, and that's something that at Rebellion we've been doing this internship program for like 16, 17 years, and last summer was where it got to an insane level. We had like 120 summer interns. We did a lecture series. We had like the chief science officer of McKinsey. We had the chief quant of Wells Fargo. We had Boaz Weinstein, the hedge fund manager, whose wife Talia is running for district attorney. We had a lot of great guest lectures to the students, and it really makes me upset when I have a student who can't even talk to 4 or 5 people at like a Monday meeting or something.
What's one of your strategies to help them overcome some of that?
I take them one-on-one out for coffee, and I tell them how great they are.
Build their confidence.
I say, listen, you're talking to people who are going to learn from you. Teach them. Don't try and meet what they think. Just say what you want to say.
Yeah,
be you.
I coach public speaking as well, and that's part of one of the biggest things. And even with this podcast, there could be anxiety from both of us from either end. But Simon Sinek says it where when you go up to give. When you go to give, when you go to teach, like you said, it takes away all that anxiety. When you're there and this podcast is here to give to our entrepreneurs and business leaders, when you're here to educate me on what you're doing with AI and everything else, we're both here to give to each other. And it removes all of that. Yeah. And so like you said, when you're standing
I have a lot of information that you're going to enjoy hearing about. And so I want to get to it and I want to inform you. And I love informing people. And I think karma is really important. As I've become a parent, I want to give back to the world. I want to make the world a better place. I want to be a better person. And I want to try to be a better person as much as possible. And so that's why I love working with the students. I don't get paid. I don't take any salary from Cornell. All of the research projects with Columbia and UCLA and Berkeley and Rutgers and Fordham are all not for profit. Just I like to publish research. I would love a Nobel Prize. I doubt it'll happen, but
not yet.
If I can come up with a good idea, I need to find a smart enough student to get me there. But
you're only in your 30s, Alex.
Yeah.
You got time.
No, I'm very excited, very ambitious.
I think that's a great goal.
I feel that today is a great day to be alive.
So my new introduction for you is future Nobel Prize winner. Alex is coming on the show today.
No, you'll jinx me then. Knock on wood. But say I love you. But the most important thing is being a great father. Before anything else. My daughter is my most important thing. And so, I think the best way to overcome public speaking is to become a parent, because when you become a parent, everything else kind of enters a vacuum. And then there's your child and your children and then everything else. And I love my wife with everything I have, but my child is, it's a part of me. It's an extension. So
right.
I would do absolutely anything for my child. And then there's everything else in the world. So
and parenthood is certainly significant. It's part of the reason why we do most of the things we do is for our kids, especially once you have them, then you know that that's really the purpose.
Yes, families make the world go round.
Going back to some of your research projects that you work on and work with all these universities and do all this work pro bono for free and for the people, what are some of the research projects that you've really enjoyed working on and why?
So one was a lot of fun with my buddy from Johns Hopkins, Professor Jim Liu. We were looking at creating a live streaming nowcasting machine learning to help global population who was using masks and who wasn't. And we decided not to do it for kind of ethical purposes, but it was a lot of fun. I also did a project on drones in the wrong hands, which we got published in an Air Force magazine, which was a lot of fun. Or the Air Force's educational wing, it was like Air Force University or Air University, I can't remember. I love them all. I wouldn't say that the AI is the least exciting to me right now, but right now natural language processing, which is a form of AI, is the most exciting AI to me, and deep reinforcement learning.
So speak to me about the natural language.
Natural language processing is the ability to read human text and intelligently interpret it. So we're talking about unlocking the ability for intelligent discerning of human communication. It's so exciting and so mind-boggling where it's going to.
So basically, the machine can read a book and give you its thoughts on the book?
Yeah, and then take that. Yeah, a book is just the start. Talking about human communication. And so the machine can read what's going on in the world. Who's buying how many peanuts where and selling to who? And who's far, and where's their water scarcity, which will affect what farms and who and how. And so natural language processing is going to unlock a whole. So two things are going to rock the world, in my opinion. From this educational series of talking to the smartest people, 3D printing is going to blow the world away. I mean, all of a sudden you're going to be able to just build on site all of these tools that you had to ship from a barge thousands of miles away. Imagine that. Imagine so many of just basic tools and necessary items for construction being just built on site. Boom. So much of global trade is going to be affected by 3D printing. So 3D printing is very exciting. Natural language processing and 3D printing are the two, topics that really blow me away. But I mean, flying cars is fun. Flying, getting in these, I guess there'll be large drones. They'll be taking us places sooner than we think.
What am I missing on the 3D printing here? Because I feel like 3D printing came out at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's taking time. It takes time. It's just not there yet.
Okay.
It could be another 5 years. It could be another 10 years. Oh, we're not there yet with 3D printing. But when it gets there, imagine global factory trade just absolutely rocked, because you're going to be able to just build almost anything on site. And I mean almost anything. And so, instead of ordering, 1,000, 10,000 widgets from, whatever construction company, you get the printer, you have the specs, you build it on site there. And so the government is really obsessed with 3D printing right now because they want to be able to produce their parts on site, like with these B-52s. What if they need a part on site that, in Guam, or they need a part on site in Hong Kong, or a part on site, at Andrews Air Force Base, and the nearest one is in Missouri. And so, the ability to produce, spare parts for construction and for aftermarket maintenance of aviation, automotive, we're talking about having to reduce overall trade because so many items will be able to start making locally. Yeah.
And when you look at we go back to Rebellion Research and your AI financial platform, does it take that into account when it forecasts out?
No, it doesn't really.
Separated.
It's just looking at what trends are happening now. And so it'll look at 3D printing. It'll look at how many 3D printers are being sold. It'll look at how fast the market's going. But the AI has no idea what will be and what could potentially be. And maybe I'm wrong with this forecast too. But at the same time, the way it's been described to me by so many brilliant people, it seems to make sense that so many items will be made locally. Global trade will be very affected by the lack of need to ship, like 1 million widgets, or like, remember the ducks that went everywhere and you could find out about ocean because of these ducks that overturned from we'll never need that ever again because we'll be able to make the ducks with the 3D printer. And so if you're a store and you want to sell, these, rubber duckies retail, you can keep buying ducks, or you can buy the printer and just make them yourself. It'll be quicker, cheaper.
Right.
And so that's what
you become the manufacturer and the distributor.
Yeah, exactly.
So it costs a lot of costs.
You'll work with the rubber duck company for the specs, but it's going to be it's going to be everything's licensing, and we're seeing it with these NFT, the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, the images. I think there's a significant future in that. I think we're in a bubble. My smartest friend from Topps, the sporting cards company, actually, a good friend of mine, 20 years, great guy, David Liner. He thinks we're in a bubble, but is some random dunk worth $2,000? Maybe it's worth like 30 cents. It's all about what the revenue will be generated in time and how much you will want to license this. And so if these things license for $3 a year, it'll be worth the NFT will be worth $50, not $10,000. So we'll see what type of revenue they generate in time.
And where do you see this natural learning process going into?
So natural language processing.
Language process, yes.
It's just going to be used by investment houses around Wall Street to manage their investments. So if a bank has 500 loans and they have 3 or 2 officers overseeing those 500 loans, it's hard to know everything that's going on with each of those 500 companies. So instead, they have a robot that's reading all of the financial releases of the company. And if there's too much negativity in one of the releases or a change in the numbers, it'll tell the manager. Mm-hmm. So essentially, we're going to get these kind of robots that are reading global communication, looking for patterns or differentiations, and then reporting it back. And so natural language processing excites me so much because it's really the ability to learn about what's happening in the world now.
In the moment.
Yes.
And then the next thing that you mentioned.
Well, Gordon Gekko says to Bud Fox, the most important or most valuable commodity I know of is information. With good natural language processing, the amount of information you can have before the rest of the market is significant.
Yeah. No, I mean, it certainly
Société Générale published a report showing that it took as many as 90 days for a good earnings release to be disseminated throughout the market. And so it takes 90 days for people to know that like ABC Telecom or DEF, a satellite, had a good earnings, and so the stock goes up.
You're so that's why I'm behind.
Yes. Yeah. And so why not have an NLP that says, hey, there's a 62% chance that this stock is going to keep going up because it had a good earnings release and it hasn't gone up enough yet. And I did a project with my Cornell students last fall that we published, and people are welcome to go type in natural language processing on my website to see it. It's also on Cornell's website, and we found 68% accuracy. So, I don't know how to integrate it currently with my current machine learning, but when you can start having 68% accuracies for stock predictions based on reading language, yes, it's a very exciting future.
And where do you see it going outside of the financial industry?
That's obviously a great question, of which I would have to absolutely give you a bunch of BS. I don't know. I mean, what industry can't have good NLP? What industry doesn't want to know about what's going on? So I guess any industry that wants to know more about what's going on around them will be interested in NLP.
My thought is marketing right after that.
Marketing, of course. But if you're a hand sanitizer company and you want to know who's charging what in what country, I mean, it's or how quickly prices are moving, and it's just natural language processing is a more efficient way to find out what's going on now, as opposed to getting delayed information.
Right. And then the next one that you said was machine learning?
Well, a branch of machine learning. Machine learning is very broad. Machine learning is really any code that can update itself. But I care a lot about deep reinforcement learning, which is a type of deep learning. So it looks at a ton of data, but it's also very preoccupied with what's going on. And so it's like making chess moves. It's not just deep learning is trying to come up with takes a lot of input to come up with a final estimation, but it's much slower to pivot. And so for investing, for instance, deep learning is good in an economy that is slow. And so deep learning will learn how the economy is moving and it will allocate itself. But if there is a quick upheaval in the economy, like with the Greek debt crisis of 2010, our reinforced deep learning saw the spread quicker than our deep learning, because reinforced deep learning is more it's a little more superficial, if you will. And it's not taking as much information into account. So, but you have to be a little bit superficial. While taking into account as much deep information as possible, you need to be apprised of what's going on right now, because we've entered a really kind of fast-moving point in our society and in the world. Look at how quickly the market recovered from coronavirus. 2008, it was like 18 months, 19 months. This time it was like 6 months. Things are moving more quickly now.
And it has a huge effect on it. There's a lot. We're approaching a 1 hour mark, and there's a lot more that I'd love to get into with you about it. I think that we're going to have to do a second part series of AI and machine learning. But as we wrap up this episode, at least with you, and going back to Rebellion Research and how you talk about how this is really a passion project for you and what you do there. I would just like to go into Rebellion Research for a second here with you and just have your thoughts as to where you are today and where you see it going in the next 5 or 10 years.
So we're going to build a really great app that'll just make it very easy to open an account. It takes 5 to 7 minutes to open an account. We want it to be less. We want it to be 2 to 3 minutes because it's all about ease, ease, ease. We want to make life easier and simpler for you. And so, Rebellion Research, I think, I hope and I pray 5 to 10 years from today we'll just be much bigger and continue to grow and have an even better app that we're talking about in 5 to 10 years to make it even easier than it is then. So, continual innovation there. At the same time, I would like to find a way to integrate natural language processing in Rebellion's machine learning. That could take a few years, but I'm in no rush because our machine learning works and works very well, knock on wood. But natural language processing will provide, I think, methods to achieve higher returns than our current machine learning. So we'll have to move to natural language processing.
So just to understand the site, so you have Rebellion Research, which is your website, and you have
we provide
platform.
research, and now we've provided over 1,000 pieces. We've hundreds of pieces, over 20 plus pages. We really will accomplish anything on an educational standpoint. No politics, sex, or religion. Then there's Rebellion TV, where we do our video episodes, and we'll start doing some cool animated learning episodes as well. And then there is Rebellion Asset Management, which is the hedge fund for wealthy clients and pension funds. And then the robo-advisory, where you can go online in one of 70 countries, open an account in 5 to 7 minutes, and get your money managed by a machine learning platform. And it's great because whether it's $5,000 or $50 million, you're getting the same AI technology. For us, there's no cost for us for every new account. And so I love it. I love that business. But the growth of Rebellion's asset management has allowed me to focus on Rebellion Research and Rebellion TV, both of which are educational and allow me to really just kind of pursue the educational path. But that, research in machine learning will then provide a better machine learning one day for the investors. So, it will, have a nice kind of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I'm just wondering too, in the separation of these different, because these are different types of businesses. You have a research business, you have a financial business. Is there a different website for each?
No. Everything is on Rebellion Research. We have a Rebellion TV side, a Rebellion Research side, and a Rebellion Research.
And it's all in one. What made you think to keep it all in one place rather than separate?
I know everybody's telling me to separate them, but I like to keep it all in one. It's one thing. It's one entity. And, we research, and our research will benefit the investors. And it's TV, which is educational, but should Rebellion TV be its own thing? Maybe one day it'll be its own thing. I don't know, possibly. But I like having it be one entity. I like overseeing it all, and I don't want to split it up. That's also why I don't want to take, it's my fiefdom. And so I'm one of the few tech companies that's been able to grow without, we're at an iHeartRadio studio. It's funny, my only outside money came from Bob Pittman, your current CEO, actually owns a very small stake in Rebellion Research, and hope one day I very much reward him with a fantastic sale price. But in the meantime, I'm going to just keep growing this business and making it as awesome as possible. But we don't have outside VC money. We don't have a board. We can just focus on really kind of building the best product that we think is there without kind of worrying about quarterly this and quarterly that. And so it's a great environment. And I think it's really a think tank is what most people think of us as now. And we are a not-for-profit research and education on the one side, but we've got this for-profit division, which is essentially fueling the not-for-profit, and the not-for-profit will then fuel the growth of the for-profit. So, it's a lot of fun. I think also eventually we'll start taking ads on the not-for-profit side, and we'll start taking sponsored this and sponsored that. It's getting hard to resist. We're getting approached by a lot of people. We were talking with NVIDIA about sponsoring our TV shows, and so maybe one day. But
yeah, I thought that you had, and I thought this is a great way to maybe wrap things up, because I think it's just such a great philosophy on things, of how you decide to become a for-profit business with this and be able to give that return.
The media portion is not cool enough to be a for-profit business. The asset management business is awesome and the coolest, and obviously kicks butt running money. And so, it's hard to find a better product around. But the media business it's growing, and it's done some really great things, and I'm really proud of it. But it's just not at the point yet. As Sean Parker said to Mark Zuckerberg, got to make it cool, and it's just not cool enough yet where I'm comfortable taking advertising on it yet.
I think that is just really nice to hear, very refreshing to hear too, is that you want to make sure that you have the best product out there.
It's just not there yet.
And that's really important to you. I always like to give it back to my guest before we wrap up. If there's any thoughts or any ideas that you'd like to share with our audience of entrepreneurs and business leaders out there, any last tips or wisdom that you'd like to share with them?
I just think that current world we live in has allowed for anyone to become an entrepreneur anywhere around the world. If you have a good idea, you can connect with entrepreneurs, you can message them. People message me all the time with their ideas. And there's almost no one around the world that couldn't get their idea to me, and if it was a good enough idea, I would consider it. And so because of 2021, anyone has a chance to become a billionaire and a mogul. They just need to work hard and think of a good idea. This is the land of entrepreneur. And so you have to believe in yourself above all else. And I hate to get philosophical, but you must believe in yourself. Otherwise, you will not succeed because you are the only one rooting for you.
I love that. That's 100% true. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
People can find you at
rebellionresearch.com. Yeah, check it out. Friend me on LinkedIn. I accept all requests. I love LinkedIn. It's my preferred medium of communication. So
awesome.
definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show today, Alexander.
Pleasure's all mine.
We'll probably be doing a part 2 very soon.
Lovely. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast.